Coming up on tonight's special edition of the Northwestern News Report. Trouble in the skies. A Northwestern chaplain says she was discriminated against while on a United Airlines flight.
Under surveillance, we take a look at what police body cameras mean for Chicago.
And read it and weep. Obama picks the Windy City over other top choices to house the presidential library. All those stories and more.
Coming up on tonight's special edition of the Northwestern News Report, it's your Chicago news right now.
This story, I think, signifies discrimination, and the injustices people, especially minorities, face on a daily basis.
A Northwestern chaplain gained national attention after she was allegedly discriminated against on an airline. That's our top story tonight. Hello and welcome to the Northwestern News Report. I'm Omar Jimenez.
And I'm Kat Reed. Thanks for joining us. Tonight we look at change in Chicago, what's in store for all of us here in the Windy City. But first, a story close to home. Northwestern Associate Chaplain Tahara Ahmad asked for a Diet Coke on a flight to Washington, D.C. last Friday, but she says she wasn't prepared for what happened next. NNN's Jesse Kirsch has been covering this story for us. Jesse?
Good evening, Kat. In a Facebook post, Ahmad said the flight attendant refused to give her a closed can of soda, yet still gave the man next to her a sealed beer. Ahmad pointed this out to the attendant, who she says opened the beer and stated, "It's so you don't use it as a weapon." I had the opportunity to sit down with Ahmad and learn what this experience means for her, Northwestern, and the U.S. On social media, there is now a hashtag United for Tahara on Twitter, and it's picking up a little bit of momentum. It's got hundreds of posts. Is this something that you expected to have happen in the aftermath of your incident on the airplane?
Within 24 hours, it had 20,000 shares. I was just surprised a little bit, but at the same time, I knew that this story is a story of many people. When United made their statement, I was very disappointed because I feel that it completely glossed over and trivialized the entire, narrative to a can of soda or misunderstanding over a can of soda, when in fact this is much deeper than that.
So you have mentioned that there have been other situations where you've been discriminated against before. Is this one different?
It was a different kind of humiliation, because in all of the past, discrimination that I have faced, it was targeted, of course, people did bad things. But in this case, I'm being targeted as someone who may be of harm to people, and that's an awful feeling, and it's very unjust.
Throughout this year, there's been a lot of contentious debate on this campus about social justice issues. How do you think your role at Northwestern in relation to this recent incident could impact this community in the future?
This calls for something that says, look, let's have a conversation about what's really happening. Our shared values, I would hope, are to recognize the humanity in people and to recognize that no one should be subject to humiliation.
United Airlines issued a statement Monday in response to the incident. Quote, "United is a company that strongly supports diversity and inclusion, and we and our partners do not discriminate against our employees or customers." The flight attendant on board Shuttle America Flight 3504 attempted several times to accommodate Miss Ahmad's beverage request after a misunderstanding regarding a can of diet soda. The in-flight crew met with Ms. Ahmad after the flight arrived in Washington to provide assistance and further discuss the matter. Additionally, we spoke with Ms. Ahmad on Saturday to get a better understanding of what occurred and to apologize for not delivering the service our customers expect when traveling with us. Kat?
Thank you, Jesse, for that report.
Well, the Chicago City Council approved a $5.5 million reparations package earlier last month. It'll give monetary compensation and other services to the alleged torture victims of former Chicago Police Commander John Burge. NNN's Orko Manna has been following the story for us, and he joins us live now in the studio. Orko?
Thanks, Omar. According to Amnesty International, John Burge and several officers under his command tortured more than 100 people, mostly African-American men, between 1972 and 1991. The reparations package comes after years of investigation into Burge's actions and efforts from various law offices and human rights organizations in Chicago. Some say this is a victory for the survivors and for Chicago as a whole. But the question now is where the victims should go from here.
It feels like it just happened yesterday, even though it's been well over almost 30 years now.
Flyers documenting the history of the Burge torture cases fill the walls of the People's Law Office in Chicago, as Daryl Cannon still remembers every detail of the night he was tortured. Cannon says that in 1983, 3 members of Burge's police unit tased him with a cattle prod and performed mock executions by shoving a shotgun in his mouth.
It's firmly burnt into my brain. You know, the same way I know my name, I know what happened to me.
A coerced confession to a murder put Cannon behind bars for 24 years until he was released in 2007. He's been trying to rebuild his life ever since, and now this landmark reparations package can help him and other Burge torture victims do just that. The package includes psychological counseling, job training, and a formal apology from the city.
No other city has ever passed a reparations package for racist law enforcement violence, let alone law enforcement violence whatsoever.
Joey Mogul is an attorney who has worked with Cannon and other victims of Chicago police torture for nearly 2 decades. She drafted the original reparations ordinance, but despite the victory, Mogul still has questions.
Will this be the panacea that produces new relationships between the police department and communities of color? No, it won't. But this is definitely a step in the right direction.
As Cannon tries to put his past behind him, he says he just wants to move forward.
The best way for me is to continue to speak out, to continue to speak on behalf of those who haven't had opportunity or can't speak for themselves.
Plaintiffs' attorneys say there could be as many as 80 eligible torture victims, and in addition to the counseling, job training, and apology from the city, the reparations package will pay them up to $100,000 each. We reached out to the mayor's office and the Chicago Police Department for comment, but received no response. Burge torture victims have until August 4th to sign a waiver, which will grant them access to the reparations.
Thank you, Orko. Despite the progress Chicago has made with the reparations package, the city still holds its title as the most corrupt city in America. The report came from the University of Illinois at Chicago. Former 44th Ward alderman and political science professor Dick Simpson co-wrote it. He says Chicago earned this rank because of the lack of transparency in its government, the high number of officials who have been convicted, and police corruption. He estimates all this costs the state around $500 million per year.
So the process of creating the corruption we see today has taken a century and a half of bad history, of bad decisions. It's going to take us decades to eliminate the corruption that we have in Chicago and in Illinois.
Simpson adds that people will continue to lose trust in their government if nothing is done.
Well, from Ferguson to Baltimore, police body cameras have been at the forefront of many discussions about police. Among them, new questions about privacy and storage that would extend to Chicago, currently using body cameras as part of a pilot program. A city within a world becoming increasingly under surveillance. The latest method for Chicago police, body cameras.
I think you're going to act a little more civil. Just because you know there's a camera on watching, recording it.
Recordings that Christopher Hurley sees as a way of giving a voice to those on the margins of the community.
Typically, they have a problem being believed. Police cameras in place would actually help the legitimate accusations, get some traction.
While the institution of body cameras in itself is undoubtedly set to have a large impact on the way law enforcement runs, the next question is going to come from who manages that data, who has access to it.
Which side you want them?
In Seattle, videos of arrests have appeared on YouTube as part of satisfying an official request from the public. In Chicago, final legislation is still up in the air.
If an officer goes into your house and your neighbor is allowed to just obtain that video from that call, they could find out, some very personal information that people don't want to get out there.
Logan Square on Chicago's west side was one of the first neighborhoods in the city to experiment with body cameras.
If the body cameras help officers be more accountable for their actions, it's a good thing.
There is a time and place for cameras, but I feel like we're over-analyzing things.
Over-analysis or not, Hurley sees these issues as part of achieving a greater good.
I definitely don't think you should throw out the baby with the bathwater and just say, well, we're not going to even try it because there's going to be problems.
So here's what's on the table right now. The Law Enforcement Officer Warren Body Camera and Management Act. Notably, under this proposed bill, police departments would be able to choose whether they want body cameras or not. Officers would be required to leave a receipt with their badge and number for any stop and frisk searches. Subjects that are arrested would have no reasonable expectation of privacy, but witnesses or victims would be able to request an officer turn off his camera if they want that to be the case. The proposed measure cleared the Illinois Senate with a 45-5 bipartisan vote. It already passed in the House as well, so it's currently awaiting Governor Rauner's final signature. And coming up, one Chicago organization helps educate residents about foreclosure.
At Northwestern, we're wildcats in every way.
Northwestern break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all to go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, spread for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
Why hang around waiting for opportunity to knock when instead you can track opportunity down and knock on its door? You might ask, what's the best way to identify where opportunity lives? Here's a hint. Its door is colored purple. Northwestern University. Opportunity awaits your knock.
Why spend your entire life looking for some on-ramp to the road to opportunity when there's already a well-traveled path? So you may be wondering, what does that path look like? Is it paved with gold? Well, here's a hint. It's actually paved with purple. Northwestern University. Your road starts here.
Montclair resident Marcia Isa refused to let her home become one of thousands of foreclosed properties in Chicago. NNN's Junius Randolph has her story.
Marcia Isa loves her home, but she almost lost it. A decade of domestic abuse led her to file for divorce from her ex-husband in 2010. He stopped making mortgage payments, sending Isa's home into foreclosure.
My outside is like nothing's happening to me, but my inside was collapsing.
Years passed. Many calls to Wells Fargo were made, and new lives came into the picture.
I was knocking every door that I would think there was a possibility of somebody to listen to me.
And luckily, she knocked on Centro Autonomos.
The first thing that we do is let them know what are their options, and by telling their options, they also learn their rights.
Antonio Gutierrez took an interest in Marcia's case. He works mostly with Casas del Pueblo, Centro's community land trust, with the goal of maintaining self-governing communities.
If you fight, you can win. She took ownership. She didn't want to be a victim.
He helped teach Isa that she could stay in her home until the foreclosure process was complete, even as Fannie Mae took control of her mortgage and sent a realtor to kick her out.
You feel like you're a criminal because you are being treated like one.
Fannie Mae allowed Centro Autonomo to buy the house back a few weeks ago. Marcia now rents the property from the Centro while holding 2 jobs and studying to be an MRI technician.
This is what I fought for. My granddaughter is going to say, my grandmother fought for this. I had the privilege to live here.
And Marcia and Ariana don't plan on giving it back. Junius Randolph, Northwestern News Network.
Marcia hopes to save up enough money to buy her house back from Centro Autonomo.
Well, staying on the topic of housing, another organization dedicated to helping others is Palatine's Little City. It provides both housing and educational services to autistic adults and children. And NNN Sydney Allman visited the campus.
Though its headquarters is in downtown Chicago, Little City itself sits on more than 50 acres of land in Palatine, Illinois.
For a long time, people with disabilities were kind of out of sight, out of mind. So in 1959, a group of very courageous families put together this place called Little City. It was really a place for kids to live out their hopes, wishes, and dreams.
Each living space in Little City teaches its residents life skills such as how to do laundry, make their beds, and organize their belongings.
One challenge that many families experience is they are left with options, limited options on where they can have their loved one go. We provide that home for them.
For students ages 3 through 22 who live in Little City and the surrounding area, day school includes specialized classrooms, relaxation rooms, and machines designed to engage students.
Our therapeutic day school that serves as the state-of-the-art type of school, serves children and specializes with working with children that have autism. We have curvilinear walls, special lighting to help meet their sensory needs.
Other than education and housing, Little City offers recreational activities, job training, and more. But ultimately, it serves as a community.
This campus, for many people with disabilities, is their home. Okay, this is, you're the outsider right now. We're the intruders, and this is a place where their needs are always first.
Sydney Allman, Northwestern News Network.
Thank you, Sydney. Demand for Little City's services continues to grow and plans for expansion are underway.
Coming up, President Obama brings the books back to Chicago.
At Northwestern, we're wildcats in every way.
Go Northwestern, break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all the go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
Why hang around waiting for opportunity to knock when instead you can track opportunity down and knock on its door? You might ask, what's the best way to identify where opportunity lives? Here's a hint. Its door is colored purple. Northwestern University. Opportunity awaits your knock.
Why spend your entire life looking for some on-ramp to the road to opportunity when there's already a well-traveled path? So you may be wondering, what does that path look like? Is it paved with gold? Well, here's a hint. It's actually paved with purple. Northwestern University. Your road starts here.
The Barack Obama Foundation has finally made it official. They announced that Obama's presidential library will be on the south side of the city in partnership with the University of Chicago. NNN's Eric Miller gives us a closer look.
Thanks, Kat. The Barack Obama Presidential Library will eventually stand here in Jackson Park. Or not. It might be here in Washington Park. When the Barack Obama Foundation announced last month that the University of Chicago had won the bid to host the President's Library, they left where exactly that library would be an open question. The exact location is expected in the next 9 months, but until then, the two neighborhoods are prepared for a little friendly competition.
It's so much park, you wouldn't take away from the park because it's so large. Unlike Jackson Park, you know, it's kind of small.
Wherever it's eventually located, organizers hope the community will benefit from new jobs, investment, and tourism. The Obamas are hoping to bring a little bit of their presidency back home.
What we can also do is to attract the world to Chicago.
I'm thrilled to be able to put this resource in the heart of the neighborhood that means the world to me. Every value, every memory, every important relationship to me exists in Chicago.
Chicago beat out both New York City and Hawaii for the location of the Presidential Center. It'll eventually include a library, museum, and space for the President's Foundation. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Eric. We'll check back in with the story when construction begins.
And the Presidential Library isn't the only architectural marvel coming to Chicago. For the second year in a row, Illinois ranked first in the nation for its environmentally friendly building practices. In addition, Chicago is home to the first building created under the LEED version 4, the U.S. Green Building Council's environmental classification system. And NNN's Jordan Tilley has more.
In keeping with its history of innovation, Chicago is leading the charge for green architecture.
Policymakers here have understood the benefits of green building and how we build our communities.
Beginning with the Great Chicago Fire, Chicago has focused on fitting its architecture to the vibrant life within it, not the other way around.
People here are proud of their architecture and their built environment.
While being proud of their architecture is nothing new for Chicago residents, the architecture they're proud of is. But it's not only what's on the outside that counts.
There are ways in which you design a building, in the materials that you use when you construct the building. There are ways in which you operate the building that make it a better place for people.
And what the people want is greener architecture, Chicago style.
When they think about a LEED or a green building, it may be hard to recognize that they're in something that's different than other buildings.
Imus says the goal is for the new buildings to blend in, and achieving that didn't happen overnight.
This recognition and leadership over the last couple of years came as a result of decades of commitment.
As more green buildings sprout over the city, Chicago will maintain its focus on the people in them.
Those are the areas that will grow in the next 20 to 50 years, is the understanding of how people perceive buildings.
Jordan Tilley, Northwestern News Network.
Imus says Chicago residents are pushing sustainability and fully expects the number of LEED certified buildings to continue to grow.
Coming up, a new extension on an old riverwalk could mean more tourists and business for Chicago's riverfront.
At Northwestern, we're wildcats in every way.
Northwestern break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all to go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, spread for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
At Northwestern University, we are pioneering innovation and achieving excellence across every imaginable discipline. At Northwestern University, the possibilities are endless.
Chicagoans get to enjoy a little more of Chicago River this month. After a year of construction, the Riverwalk extension is open to the public. NNN's Jamie Leventhal visited the new addition.
Benny, say hi.
Jim Goodman and his dog have been coming to the Riverwalk for years.
I can't think of any better place to be except here or the lake.
And with the latest Riverwalk extension, they don't plan on ending their walks anytime soon. This sign marks the beginning of the first part of the Chicago Riverwalk extension. This newly built walkway was open Memorial Day weekend and is already receiving many visitors.
It's a great place to be and you can really focus.
Yeah, I'll be here during the summer for sure.
This is great, just these little areas under each bridge, and they did a fantastic job.
And construction isn't over yet. The Chicago Department of Transportation says they are building 3 more extensions the rest of this year.
It keeps getting longer. We keep walking one more block, as they finish another block.
This walkway benefits restaurants along the river and will bring in $7 to $8 billion in new businesses. Jamie Leventhal with the Northwestern News Network.
The Riverwalk cost the city $100 million, but officials say it's quickly becoming a tourist attraction.
More than 100 people gathered at La Katrina Cafe in Pilsen last week to hop on their bikes, enjoy the spring weather, and take a ride. Slow Roll Chicago, a local cycling organization, attempts to make a difference in Chicago with these weekly bike rides.
No sidewalks. We ride on the street.
Slow Roll is a global movement. It was founded in 2010 in Detroit. In Detroit, Slow Roll was just an exciting and incredible gathering of people using bikes as a way to connect community. And we learned about it, and we wanted to bring the same energy, the same spirit, the same diversity that was created with Slow Roll Detroit to Chicago. We ride every Wednesday night, neighborhoods across the city, mostly South Side and West Side, always neighborhood based, always hosted in partnership with community organizations. Our mission, our vision is to use bikes, the activity of cycling, community bicycle rides, as a vehicle for social change. We want our organization, our movement, to transform people's lives and to improve the condition of our communities.
Reed said he hopes to grow Slow Roll Chicago in the future. Slow Roll in Detroit currently averages 4,000 bikers every week.
And coming up, looking for a new snack as summer heats up? Well, Chicago's largest candy stores got you covered.
At Northwestern, we're wildcats in every way.
Northwestern break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all to go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, spread for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
At Northwestern University, we are pioneering innovation and achieving excellence across every imaginable discipline. At Northwestern University, the possibilities are endless.
Every year, Chicago's Sweets and Snacks Convention showcases enough candy to satisfy everyone's sweet tooth. Now, NNN is always there, and this year, Isabel Lawrence has the story.
Thanks, Kat. I'm standing here in downtown Chicago in the McCormick Center, home right now to the Sweets and Snacks Convention, which is currently the world's largest candy store. Some of the biggest names in the candy and snacks industries have come together to showcase their products to vendors and buyers alike.
The 630 snack and sweet vendors displaying their goods drew a crowd of 16,000 attendees from 90 different countries. Not only does the event serve as a networking site to promote different products, but it celebrates the nature of candy itself.
The Expo is one of the biggest events and the premier event for industry retailers as well as candy manufacturers to get together and make deals, sell candy. So that's what brings us here. We're also here to celebrate candy's unique role in the diet. You know, it's a happy, fun, honest, authentic treat.
One of these treats is the Every Burger, a small sweet burger made of cookies and chocolate produced by the Bourbon Corporation of Japan, which hopes to expand their presence in the American market.
This is the first year that we're exhibiting and to have our own booth. We've exhibited at some other shows, sharing a booth with other companies, but this really feels like we're making it our own. And people have been so positive, so it's been great for us.
The Sweets and Snacks Expo satisfied everybody's sweet tooth and looks forward to returning to Chicago next year.
Watch out for some of the newest sweets and snacks tested here today, which will soon be available in stores. With Northwestern News Network, this has been Isabel.
And that's all we have for tonight. I'm Kat Reed.
And I'm Omar Jimenez. Thanks for watching.